economic event. Radio Algeria International, our voice in the world.
This is the English service of Radio Algeria International. It's time for the news.
In today's top stories, the Foreign Affairs Minister Ahmed Attaf and the American Secretary of State Antony Blinken discussed the latest developments of the situation in the occupied Palestinian territories during a telephone call. The Foreign Minister has discussed with his Kenyan counterpart ways and means to strengthen bilateral cooperation and partnership and the importance of strengthening the role of the African Union amid the current world challenges. The UN Security Council has said it will decide on Palestine's request for UN full membership later this month as the Israeli occupation pursued its attacks on Gaza, killing and wounding several people. The United Nations Chief Antonio Guterres has said that denying international journalists entry into Gaza is allowing disinformation and false narratives to flourish. Hello and welcome to Radio Algeria International. I'm Jamal Silmani. Algeria will celebrate tomorrow Wednesday the Eid al-Fitr festival, marking the end of the holy fasting month of Ramadan. The National Moon Sighting Committee met yesterday evening in Dar al-Imam here in Algiers and observed the Eid crescent, announcing that the 1st of Shawwal is on Wednesday. The Minister of Foreign Affairs and the national community abroad has taken a series of emergency measures aiming at improving the services provided by diplomatic and consular representations to address the concerns of the Algerian community abroad in accordance with the instructions of the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, who pays a particular interest to the Algerian community abroad. The Foreign Affairs Ministry took emergency measures following the release of several newspaper articles on the beginning of the implementation of an appointment system for biometric passports requests, generating a constructive debate within the Algerian community living abroad in order to avoid any confusion caused by some statements to the media. Now, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and the National Community Abroad, Mr. Ahmed Attaf, has discussed in Nairobi with the Kenyan counterpart, Musalia Mudavadi, cooperation and partnership relations as part of his work and visit to Kenya. Majid Mila tells us more in this report.
In a statement to the press following his meeting with his Kenyan counterpart, Mr. Attaf said the discussions centered on the ways and means to strengthen the cooperation and partnership relations between Algeria and Kenya in several fields of endeavor, as well as on consultation and coordination regarding the latest developments at the regional and international levels.
My visit comes, as you all know, at a time when the world is going through profound and accelerating changes against the background of ever-increasing tensions, crises, and conflicts that continue to imply huge challenges both at the international and regional levels. In such times of great uncertainties, we firmly believe in the vital importance of maintaining close contacts and regular consultations among brothers and strategic partners.
The two sides agreed on relaunching the institutional framework of the Algerian-Kenyan relations through reactivating the Joint Economic Commission, the Business Council, and the strengthening of political consultations. Mr. Attaf and his Kenyan counterpart also tackled the question of peace and security in the Sahel-Saharan region and East Africa. Ahmed Attaf recalled that Algeria considers Kenya a key partner in East Africa, adding that this consultation with Mr. Mudavadi was an opportunity to further nurture the already existing solid relations.
Kenya has always been and continues to be one of our privileged strategic partners in Africa in general and in East Africa in particular. Together we have assumed great responsibilities and fulfilled remarkable roles in support of the political unity and the economic integration of Africa, based on our shared values and principles, as well as on our firm commitment to the ideals of Pan-Africanism. From that perspective, the rich and very fruitful consultations I just had with my dear brother, Minister Musalia Mudavadi, were an occasion to reaffirm our resolve and engagement to consolidate and to further nurture this special and most promising relationship between our two countries and peoples. In this regard, we have noted with great satisfaction the continued efforts being exerted from both sides to achieve higher levels of cooperation and coordination.
Algeria and Kenya also reaffirmed their common positions and desires to strengthen the role of the African Union in the face of the world's current serious challenges.
Mr. Ahmed Attaf and the American Secretary of State, Mr. Antony Blinken, discussed the latest developments of the situation in the occupied Palestinian territories during a telephone call. The conversation focused on the ongoing discussions of the Security Council regarding the prospects of Palestine being admitted as a full member of the United Nations. As you followed in our top stories, the UN Security Council has said it will decide on Palestine's request for UN full membership later this month as the Israeli army pursued its attacks on Gaza, killing and wounding several people. Malta's representative to the UN, who currently chairs the UN Security Council, said the deliberation would take place during this month. The Palestinians' request, first put forth in 2011, was submitted last week by the representative of the State of Palestine, Riyad Mansour, who hailed the initiative as historic. This came as Australia suggested that it might officially recognize the State of Palestine to help put forward the stalled peace process. The Australian Foreign Minister affirmed that the recognition of a Palestinian state can peacefully coexist with Israel offers not only an opportunity to the Palestinians to meet their aspirations, but will further strengthen the peace forces and undermine extremism. Earlier, New Zealand urged the international community to take action to put an end to Israel's acts of aggression on Gaza. Addressing the UN General Assembly, New Zealand's foreign minister stressed the necessity to reach a ceasefire immediately in Gaza to stop the ongoing humanitarian disaster. In the meantime, more raids have been carried out by the Israeli army over the past 24 hours, killing over 150 Palestinians, notably in the central area of Deir al-Balah. The permanent representative of Palestine to the United Nations, Riyad Mansour, has hailed Algeria's efforts made in support of the Palestinian cause, most recently as a non-permanent member of the UN Security Council. Mariam Barshi has the details.
In a statement to newsmen following the Security Council meeting, Mr. Riyad Mansour recalled all the efforts Algeria is making in supporting the Palestinian cause within the Security Council as representative of the Arab countries and the State of Palestine as well.
We are so honored that the representative of the Arab group in the Security Council now is Algeria. It might be a good omen. We declared our independence, the independence of the State of Palestine, in November 1988 in Algeria. We came as an observer in the UN system when the Foreign Minister of Algeria was the President of the General Assembly in 1974, when he invited the late Chairman Arafat to come and address the General Assembly when he gave his famous speech, "Don't let the green olive drop from my hand." And now again, Algeria for the third time is representing all the Arabs in the Security Council, definitely representing the State of Palestine, and we sincerely hope that during this historic time that the State of Palestine to become a full member.
The ambassador of the State of Palestine to the UN has expressed hope that the Security Council will elevate itself to implementing the global consensus on the two-state solution by admitting the State of Palestine for full membership. Mr. Riyad Mansour has also called for the implementation of the UN Security Council resolution demanding a ceasefire.
Our call has two aspects to it, as I said in the General Assembly. The first thing, we want the implementation of Security Council resolution that demanded an immediate ceasefire. We need to stop this aggression against our people in the Gaza Strip. We need ceasefire now. We need to save lives. We need to stop the killing of the Palestinian children, women, and civilians, which reached more than 33,000 after 6 months. Enough is enough. That's number one. That's our top priority. Two, it is high time now for the State of Palestine, which was called for the establishment of two states in Resolution 181 in 1947 by the General Assembly. So it is the General Assembly, along with the Security Council, the international community, to accept and to invite the other state, which is the State of Palestine, to become a full member in the United Nations.
The State of Palestine, which has been a UN observer since 2012, officially initiated a procedure to become a full member state, an initiative supported by the Security Council, notably by the representatives of the Group of Arab Countries and the Organization of Islamic Cooperation.
The Palestinian resistance movement Hamas is examining the latest ceasefire proposal presented by mediators in Egypt. Representatives of the Israeli occupation and Hamas say no significant progress has been made during the latest round of the Gaza truce talks in Cairo, attended by representatives from mediators including Egypt, Qatar and the United States. The representative of Hamas in Algeria, Youssef Hamdan, told Radio Algeria International that there was no change in the position of the Israeli occupier.
The movement is aware about the position of the occupier during the latest round of talks in the capital Cairo. It hails the efforts made during the latest rounds of talks. The movement is keen to reach an agreement for a ceasefire to halt the occupier's aggression on the Palestinian people. But unfortunately, it's obvious that there is no change in the occupier's position and has not met the demands of our people and the resistance that they tabled in the previous rounds of talks. Besides, despite the occupier's stubbornness, the resistance is studying the proposal with great responsibility with parties within and outside the movement, and it will communicate to the mediators the outcome of the negotiations with all the various parties concerned.
That was the representative of Hamas in Algeria, Youssef Hamdan, speaking to Radio Algeria International. Now, UN spokesperson Mr. Stéphane Dujarric stressed that more than half of the aid going to the war-torn Gaza scheduled to be delivered in March has been blocked by the Israeli occupation. During the daily press briefing, Mr. Dujarric presented OCHA's monthly report on access constraints in Gaza.
Restrictions and denials of planned aid movements by Israeli authorities continue to hamper the delivery of life-saving assistance. During the month of March, more than half of the UN-coordinated food missions to high-risk areas requiring coordination with Israeli authorities were either denied or impeded. Meanwhile, there was just one primary route designated for access by humanitarian workers between southern and northern Gaza, with only limited use of the so-called fence road on Gaza's eastern border thus far. Despite these restrictions, we and our partners continue to deliver humanitarian assistance to civilians in Gaza and wherever and whenever we can.
The UN spokesman further added that OCHA and the World Health Organization officials went to Al-Shifa hospital, which was targeted by the Israeli occupation army. Human Rights Watch has pointed out that children in Gaza have been dying from starvation-related complications since the Israeli occupation began using starvation as a weapon of war. More in this report by Asya Bikar.
The organization said doctors and families in Gaza, as well as pregnant and breastfeeding mothers, are suffering from severe malnutrition and dehydration, and hospitals are ill-equipped to treat them. Concerned governments should impose targeted sanctions and suspend arms transfers to press the Israeli occupation to ensure access to humanitarian aid and basic services in Gaza in accordance with Israel's obligations under international law and the recent International Court of Justice order in South Africa's genocide case. Human Rights Watch said the Israeli occupation's use of starvation as a weapon of war has proven deadly for children in Gaza, stressing that the Israeli occupation needs to end this war crime, stop the suffering and allow humanitarian aid to reach all of Gaza unhindered. A United Nations coordinated partnership of 15 international organizations and UN agencies investigating the hunger crisis in Gaza reported on March 18, 2024, that all evidence points towards a major acceleration of death and malnutrition. The partnership said that in northern Gaza, where 70% of the population is estimated to be experiencing catastrophic hunger, famine could occur any time between mid-March and May.
The United Nations Chief Antonio Guterres has criticized the Israeli occupation for denying international journalists entry into the Gaza Strip, warning that the decision could add to the trauma of the war. Antonio Guterres said on his X account that denying international journalists entry into Gaza is allowing disinformation and false narratives to flourish. He said an information war has added to the trauma of the war in Gaza, obscuring facts and shifting blame. Haiti's leaders have finalized a political agreement to serve as the framework of a 22-month transitional government that will be charged with bringing back order to the country and pave the way for elections for the swearing-in of a new president in 2 years. Asya Bikar again.
The 9-member council, made up of 7 voting members and 2 non-voting observers, was named by a cross-section of political parties and civil society organizations, whose leaders also signed the final document over the weekend along with the council members. The accord ends nearly a month of negotiations to figure out a path for the appointment of a new prime minister to replace outgoing leader Ariel Henry, name ahead for the council and form a new government. Members give themselves a considerable amount of power over the incoming government, including the authority to fire the next prime minister, usually the responsibility of an elected parliament, and to name people to a number of newly created agencies, including a National Security Commission. The accord, along with an ordinance outlining the proposed presidential council's power, priorities and functions, were sent to the Caribbean Community Regional Bloc known as CARICOM late Sunday. The agreement will be forwarded to outgoing Ariel Henry, who is being kept out of Haiti after he was prevented from returning to violence-plagued Port-au-Prince via the neighboring Dominican Republic. Henry and his council of ministers will need to sign off on the deal in order to publish the ordinance establishing the transitional body in the country's official gazette.
The United Nations has condemned the persistence of deadly threats against schools in Haiti, where armed gangs violence meet with an educational crisis. In a report, the United Nations said children in Haiti not only suffer from not going to school, but also from violence. In the Democratic Republic of the Congo, at least 34 people were killed within the 3 past days by armed men in the Congo Development Cooperative Codeco in Doju territory. And the Somalian National Army has killed 50 members from the terrorist Shabab group during airstrikes carried out in the Galmudug state located in the center of the country. This is Radio Algeria International. Stay tuned.
Hello and welcome to this new edition of your weekly program, The Health Magazine. The fasting month of Ramadan is drawing to its end, and it's important that the good eating habits followed during this